It starts like this. You're standing in a hallway you've never seen before. The lights flicker, a voice calls your name, but no one's there. You wake up in a sweat with your heart racing, but you're safe. You're just in bed and it's a dream. Later that day, you're given a sugar pill for your headache and somehow it vanishes. No real medicine, just belief. Then as you walk into the coffee shop, something strange happens. You pause. You swear you've been in this same place before. You know what the barista is going to say to you. You feel it, but you haven't, have you? Well, all of these experiences together, they really feel real, don't they? They're powerful, but sometimes they haunt us. And yet science still doesn't fully understand them. And that is our topic for today. We're going to be diving deep into those topics. I am Chris Hadnegi, CEO and founder of Social Engineer LLC. And this is the Social Engineer Podcast, a Doctor is In series, episode 323. And as always, we have our laughing doctor as our co-host, Dr. Abbie. Good to have you here.
Good to be here, Chris. I'm Dr. Abbie. I'm the Director of Education at Social Engineer. I'm a behavioral scientist and an expert in human decision-making, nonverbal communication, and trust.
I have another question for you to ponder while you're thinking about this podcast. Do you really know how vulnerable your sea level is? Well, if you're thinking even, maybe I don't, then we have something for you. It's called the Social Engineering Risk Assessment. These services are something that we can do quick and easy to uncover any vulnerabilities that your sea level has in your organization and then test those vulnerabilities and then come up with a plan to make sure that you could stay safe and strong and your organization can stay safe and strong. Go to social-engineer.com and check out the SERA or Social Engineer Risk Assessment page, and you'll find out more information there. And if you want to spend some time with Dr. Abbie and I, November, let me make sure I got the dates right, 14th and 15th here in Orlando, we're going to be hosting the Human Behavior Conference. Super excited about this because it's our fourth, fifth time? I can't remember, but our second time doing this, and we expanded it to 2 days because of what everyone said from last year. We have an amazing group of people. Go to humanbehaviorcon.com and check out who's coming. You should probably go and check on that now. If you like the topic of social engineering, then you should definitely hop into our Slack channel. The link is in the show notes. You can go in there and come on in and have a great conversation. It's family friendly and legal, all about social engineering from any aspect. And I invite you all to go check out innocentlivesfoundation.org. Our nonprofit there is helping law enforcement globally to uncover people and unmask people who traffic children and harm children and create child abuse material. We're over 570 cases now. I'm really proud of the work we're doing there, and we can use your help. So if you feel that this mission is something important to you, then we can use your donations. So go to innocentlivesfoundation.org and you can see how you can support us there. Also, give a shout out to Clutch, our music that's at the beginning and the end of the podcast, because those guys have supported us and ILF for 8 years now and for much longer with their music. So go to clutchmerch.com. And if you like this topic, give us a thumbs up, a heart, a like, whatever it is, and keep your comments coming in. Dr. Abbie and I do respond and answer all those comments, but your ideas are what kind of motivate us to come up with new themes for this show. And as we said in the beginning, this time we're talking about dreams, placebo effect, and deja vu. Some pretty big topics here, Doc.
Yeah, we always do our podcast on solving a problem, and I thought it'd be interesting to take the approach of what science still doesn't know, because anything that we've found out is something we originally didn't know. And science is always progressing. So we kind of think that science has the answers to everything, but it doesn't. And there's things that we think we understand that actually when we dig into them, we realize we don't really know that much about it. And I just think it's an interesting thing to remind us how complicated the world is. And I love unanswered questions because it means there's work to do. As much as those questions drive me crazy, I think that it's a really interesting thing about science.
Okay, so here's my question that I've asked for my whole life. Well, I wouldn't say my whole life, but a large portion of my adult life. Why do we dream? And why sometimes are the dreams so vivid they feel like a movie?
Yeah, I have really vivid dreams. I also sleep talk. I'm someone that does sleep talk. I move a lot in my sleep. And I wake myself up sometimes, speaking really loudly, and sometimes shouting. And I remember my dreams quite often, and they're very random and complicated. Okay, so why do we have this? Well, dreams are linked to REM sleep, and they're involved in heightened brain activity, particularly in the visual and emotional regions. And REM sleep, for anyone that doesn't know, is rapid eye movement. So during rapid eye movement, brain activity ramps up significantly, especially in parts, like I said, with visual information, which is why everything feels so vivid, and in limbic structures. So the amygdala, the hippocampus. Now, these parts, they regulate emotion and memory. But interestingly, too, the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, which is a part of the brain involved in logical reasoning and awareness, is less active. So when we think this made no logical sense, well, that part of the brain is actually very inactive. And we also have to remember that dreaming and wakefulness are just states. We think of it kind of like a switch, but that's not quite accurate. It's more a dial, where you have awake on one end and asleep on the other, but it's not like you turn one off and you go straight to the other. You move through the stages. It's not binary. And during REM sleep, it's kind of an integrated conscious state. So you're awake internally, but you experience imagery, emotions, and narratives. So you're technically asleep, but you're also partially awake. And this is what hypnosis does. It moves you along the continuum of wakefulness. So it's not like click, you're in a different state. It's just in that continuum. And there's other reasons that we think, for example, scientists think that dreams may help process emotions, consolidate memory. And there's a lot of research showing that after REM sleep, it can dampen the emotional charge on painful memories by kind of replaying them in an environment that is less stress related. For example, like processing trauma and things like that, you could do in your sleep.
But sometimes dreaming makes sense, right? Like I had, I don't know if I mentioned this on the podcast before, but I have a beehive. So I had 10 bees. And I had this dream one day that a bunch of hornets were attacking my bees. And I was outside and I do the same thing you do. I talk in my sleep, and it's good that I do, because I started yelling at the hornets. And as my fist was coming down into Arisa's face, she had woken up because I was screaming and blocked my hand from hitting her, which would have been pretty darn bad, right?
Yeah.
But that dream makes sense because I have a beehive and I do worry about, predators coming in and attacking my bees. But then you have dreams like I'm flying somewhere. That makes no sense. Like a place I've never been. Egypt. I've never been to Egypt. Why am I flying in Egypt?
There's some ideas that it helps integrate new memories with existing knowledge networks. So it helps contribute to things like creativity and insight, which is often, so if you think about it, the new knowledge, it's integrating what you've just learned, but it's pulling on what you've been around. So often your dreams will resemble things you've maybe read, maybe just seen in passing, maybe people that you've seen, things you've been thinking about, and it will kind of integrate all of that information. And one of the theories of why it does that is for creativity and insight. And I have actually written most of my speeches at like 2-3 a.m. in the morning. Most of my speeches have been written because I've woken up and instantly sat up and grabbed my phone and I speak into it. Or I'm in the shower and I'm really tired and I have that same, like, I'm not fully there. Like it's, I'm kind of in a different state. And then I'm like, oh my God, where's my phone? Or I'm going to sleep. I'm about to sleep. And in my dream, I'm giving a speech.
Yeah.
And then I have to grab my phone. And that's happened with, like I said, most of my speeches. So it makes sense if dreaming is designed to kind of process and integrate knowledge in that way. And think too, some of the dreams are completely random, but we also aren't aware of every piece of information that we pick up. So we go, well, I was never around any of that information. It is likely that that information came into your processing without you being conscious of it. Maybe you saw a book, maybe you heard a conversation, but you didn't consciously recognize it. Or maybe it's just a long-term memory that it pulled. And the emotional charge can stay with you, because I remember the other day, I couldn't remember my dream when I woke up, but I got to the gym and I was feeling really weird around my gym buddies. And I was like, I don't know why I feel so weird. And then I remembered, like, oh, you were mean to me. And I'm like, oh, wait, no. Because in my dream, for no reason, everybody was speaking funny and they weren't allowed to use A's, E's, I's, O's, or U in their speaking.
That's great.
So they were talking with missing those letters. And I was trying to have conversations with them and I was like, why is everybody speaking in code? See, that made no sense, but it integrated parts of my knowledge. And then when I got to the gym, it's that emotional charge kind of ramped up and I'm like, I feel funny about these people. And then the memory of the dream hit me and then you're like, oh, that's why. And often it's an emotional trigger. So it makes sense that dreams are emotionally charged.
You ever meet somebody who does get actually angry at somebody else because of something they dreamed?
Yep.
Right. I actually had that situation where I was like, what? Like someone's actually angry because of something they dreamt about their partner. Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's just the weirdest thing on earth because it's like, wait, I didn't dream it. Like I can understand if I dreamt I cheated on Arisa or something and I told her and she's like, what? Why would you dream about that? But like if she dreamt, this didn't happen, but if she dreamt about it and then hated my guts, I was like, wait, why are you mad at me? I didn't dream about that.
Yep. And we have no control over our dreams except in the case of lucid dreaming. Yeah. Lucid dreaming. I mean, if you said I lucid dreamt this, then it would be kind of a question of, did you choose that? And then maybe it's different territory. But in general, unless it's a lucid dream, you don't have control over your dreams. Yeah. They just happen to you.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, I always find that funny.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about the placebo effect.
Wait. Sophie.
Oh, okay. We're not done with dreams yet.
This is what we know about dreams.
Oh, okay. We haven't discussed what we don't know.
Yes. So that's all the stuff that we know. But what we don't know about dreams is why some dreams feel emotionally realer than waking life. Because despite knowing their illusions, dreams can have this profound emotional weight to them. And because they have heightened activity in the amygdala and other parts of the brain, which regulate fear and emotional salience, they can feel very intense. But we don't fully understand why dreams feel more emotionally intense or linger longer, especially when they have no real world correlation. And we also don't know why the content is so bizarre. And it's often like prophetic feeling. Like it feels like I'm having this awakening sometimes. And it could be because of the impaired rational filtering, but we don't fully understand why they feel so almost symbolic. And we also research hasn't identified really any specific evolved function. We don't know if they're just a byproduct of random brain activity. Are they purposely designed? There's no one theory that is the theory that we understand why we dream. And that's very strange for a psychological phenomena that we experience every day. We understand quite a lot about the brain, but this is something where we have a lot of different theories, but no one has consolidated one theory that most scientists agree on.
I mean, how would you? I mean, like when it's something that is so fluid, right? I mean, like why do we dream this? Why not? When, like, you know.
And that's the thing. Although we can study the state of dreaming, we can't study the psychological experience of dreaming in the same way, because we can go through an experience and be asked questions about it. And we can study the brain during dreaming. We can study people when they wake up, but we can't actually be involved during that state. And there's no way for us to access what actually happened other than the person's recognition. Oh my God, recollection of what happened.
I know there's movies about like recording your dreams, but we haven't got there yet, you know.
But there is some terrifying advancements. There is one, maybe we'll make
actually recording dreams.
there are advancements on potentially uploading the brain to computers to preserve life in the future.
Oof, I don't know.
So maybe that will be an episode for different podcasts.
Yes.
But when neuroscience is absolutely terrifying. So maybe we will soon. Maybe sooner than we will expect.
Yeah, okay. Well, I don't know if I want my dreams uploaded somewhere.
Oh, I do.
I don't. I mean, like when you talk about processing trauma, coming from like an abusive childhood, the last thing I want is, there's some horror movies that would look like Disney shows compared to what I dreamt about. So I don't know if I want that uploaded somewhere.
Yeah, dreams, like I said, they're very emotionally intense. And like I said, I'm a sleep talker, and I have sleep screamed myself awake.
Same.
Many times. And I do remember many years ago, I lived in a house with a housemate, and her and I were very close at the time. And we were having a slumber party, and we'd watched a horror film, and we'd had all of our duvets and stuff on the floor in the lounge. And I screamed us both awake and just went, oops, and then went back to sleep. So I would like to know what was in that dream, but it would be terrifying content. That's the thing. And they'd likely be very morphed. Like if you look in your dream, everything on the surface feels very familiar, but it's like if you actually look at your hand and focus, that's one way that people train themselves to lucid dream. If you look at your hand and count your fingers, when you actually focus on things, they're very morphed. So I bet if we could watch dreams, it'd be very unnerving because it'd all be very uncanny valley.
But you're talking like if there's certain people that get mad about dreams that they've had that are like, their mate or partner cheating on them. Now, if everyone can watch your dreams, like there's just going to be divorce rates are going to skyrocket, murder rates are going to skyrocket. It's oof. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if we're ready for that.
I don't think we're ready as a species for
I don't think we're ready for it. I don't think we're ready. I think we're, looking at the state of the world today, what people get mad about on social media. If all of a sudden our dreams were like Netflix shows, it would just be terrible.
Yeah, that's why I don't go live on social media because my humor is so dark and people are very mad about things very easily.
Yes, so people get very mad easily about everything right now.
Yes.
So let's talk about the placebo effect before we tick off everyone listening.
Before we get cancelled.
Again.
Okay, so the placebo effect is basically the idea that a belief that something can work creates real physiological change. So placebos aren't imaginary. They can lead to measurable changes like pain relief, reduced inflammation, lowered blood pressure, and improved motor function. It's like a psychosomatic effect, like acupuncture. So acupuncture is the premium for psychosomatic effects because what it does is it creates sensation. So it does nothing. But it feels like it does something. So when you believe that it will do something, and your body feels sensations, what can actually happen is there is a change. And I remember actually speaking to a researcher about this because I said that acupuncture is entirely psychosomatic. It doesn't work in the sense of it doesn't create the change itself, but it works because a psychosomatic effect is still an effect. Because believing there's an effect and your body going, oh, there should be one, so I'm going to create one, it still creates an effect. It's just indirectly rather than directly. So people that go, oh, well, these effects are psychosomatic, they're not real. They actually are real. It's like phantom limb syndrome. When people have had a limb amputated and they still feel the pain of the limb. The limb isn't there, but it doesn't make the pain any less real. It might be a psychosomatic pain, but it's felt as if it isn't psychosomatic. So it still technically is real. And it's all kind of in the same realm as placebos. But specifically, it's kind of an expectation of relief can stimulate the brain's natural opioids and dopamine. So again, it can create a biological effect. And there's been a lot of research, for example, in Parkinson's disease, where placebo treatments have been shown to increase dopamine levels and change the biology to temporarily improve motor symptoms. So even though you're saying, hey, I'm giving you this pill, and there's nothing in that pill except sugar water, it shouldn't be having a biological effect. Because they believe that it will, it does. So the effect is still real. And it's really, really interesting. My favorite study of all studies when it comes to this is this one where they had yogurts and it said high fat on one and low fat on the other. And same yogurt, no difference. And participants had both the yogurts. And when they had the one that said high fat, ghrelin was released it was released quicker to say, I'm full. When it said low fat, it was released slower to say, oh, we need more. There was no difference. This is the thing. It has a biological effect. It has a psychological effect, even if there's no reason. And if I give you pain meds and I don't tell you I'm giving you pain meds, you feel more pain than if I tell you I'm giving you pain meds. So it might not be doing anything, but it's still doing anything. It's still doing something. And that's why I think it's so interesting. And then you can also increase the likelihood of an effect by context and rituals. So if it's in a clinical setting, for example, clinical warmth, and if the nurses and doctors are very confident, if there is a particular ritual, like I said with acupuncture, where it's a pill or an injection or something that you would expect, and even branding, like having things like white coats and beeping tech equipment nearby, it kind of tricks the brain to be like, okay, this is the expected environment. So it has an increased psychological and physiological response.
Yeah. I mean, I've not had like a known placebo, like someone giving me a sugar pill. And I would, not on this podcast, but I would debate you with the acupuncture things. I went into acupuncture for migraines, not believing it was going to work. So
you don't have to actually believe that it will work for placebo to work. There is no scientific evidence that acupuncture actually works.
Well, it worked for me.
There's only scientific evidence that it doesn't. But that's what I mean. It
hurt.
Works.
Dang it, it hurt.
That's the thing, though. It works even if it doesn't work, because the effect is real, but it's indirect. So that's what I said to Arisa. It's like I said, the same with phantom limb syndrome. The limb isn't there. You're not having pain because of the limb, but the pain is real, right? The outcome itself is real. Like in the gut, ghrelin was released. The outcome was a measurable change. It just didn't happen because of the actual yogurts.
But could we then create, you and me create a drug that cures cancer? And it's just a bunch of vitamins, and we give it to people with cancer, and then their body cures it?
That is such a good question, but it's a little bit more complicated than that. Like, you don't see it. I mean, you've seen it in Parkinson's, right? There are measurable effects in really serious diseases, but it does have its limits.
You know, that reminds me of like, who was that scientist? We both love her. Ellen Langer. She did that study where she took old folks, like somebody that were in their 80s, and converted their nursing room into exactly what their room looked like when they were 20 years younger. Gave them all the clothes from 20 years younger. And it's in one of her books I have here. And she basically said that with a short amount of time, they started acting like they were 60 instead of 80. Even to the point of their energy levels, nothing was given to them. No pills, no medicines, nothing. It just literally was just changing their environment to a time that mirrored when they were healthier and better. And bam, all of a sudden they were healthier and better.
Yeah, we often have context dependent. I wouldn't say that's placebo per se. It's more context dependent. So it's like if you are revising, if you are going to do a test, it's a multiple choice test, say in an exam room, your memory during that test will be better if you studied in conditions that mirror that. Because when we go to certain contexts, our memory is better in that context, if that's how we revised. Like if you study in your office every day and you have a really high stress job, when you enter your office, the context and the environment will increase your emotional stress because you get context dependent emotions. That's why I say to people, don't work in your bedroom, because now when you're trying to relax, your body's naturally going to associate.
Yeah, we tell every employee that.
And a lot of it is because the brain works by associative networks. So here is where I feel here is where I remember this. So it's like if you go and visit your parents and you've lived away from home for years, and all of a sudden you start feeling like a kid again, start acting like a kid, you kind of go back into that role because that's what the network is like. In this environment, this is how we act. So neurons are fire together, wire together. It's associated those behaviors with that environment. It's associated those emotions with that environment. So when everything is put back in that place, those networks are triggered and it puts you back into that state. So I guess it's kind of a placebo-like effect. I wouldn't class it quite as a placebo, more a context-dependent effect.
I get that. It's like when I enter my gym, it's a whole different set of emotions than sitting here in my office.
Yeah.
Right. So I get that. That's context, not, Okay. So.
But what we don't understand is why some people are placebo non-responders, because not everybody benefits from placebos. Individual personalities, genetics may play a part, but there's not actually a consistent portfolio of a placebo responder. And you would assume we know this by now. There are studies suggesting that people who have dopamine receptor sensitivity, but it doesn't fully explain the variance. And we don't know fully why placebos work, even when people know they're taking one. So some people, when you say this is a placebo, it still has a placebo effect, even though they know. So it suggests that expectation alone may not be the only driver, because if we're thinking the expectation of an effect, just like you said, you didn't expect that effect to work. Well, we know that in placebos, that can't be the only reason why it's working, but it still works. There is, again, some conversation that it might be conditioned responses or embodied memories and kind of rituals that in these situations, this is the expected outcome. But again, it's not expectation alone. Yeah. So we also don't know whether belief alone can lead to long-term healing or just temporary symptom relief. So placebo effects are very robust for mood, pain, fatigue, motor symptoms, but it's unclear if it can have a long-term biological repair. And that kind of goes back to your question of cancer. So we don't fully know if tissue regeneration or tumor reduction can be seen long-term. And the placebo really alters how we experience the illness, but not necessarily the underlying pathology. And I think that's probably one of the core reasons why it doesn't work for more serious things like cancers, because it's not the actual disease it's targeting, it's the experience of the disease.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. Okay, I had this experience. Recently we're in Geneva, and it was my first time ever being in Geneva. And we walked into a coffee shop, and I swore I was there before. And I swore it. I really did. To the point is that I knew exactly like on what shelf to go to get a certain thing. Like I knew it, but I've never been there before.
Yeah.
How can that be possible?
Yeah, that is really frustrating. I've had that.
It is.
Where I've had conversations and I'm like, we've had this before. Yes. And there's multiple people and they're like, no, we've never had it. And it's like, but we have.
Right.
And Deja Vu, like it's hard to explain how it feels. It might feel kind of like uncanny valley of this has happened before.
Yes.
But it likely results from a memory system glitch. So again, there's no one theory that everybody's like, this is correct. Right. But the leading theory is that it occurs when the brain mistakenly processes a new experience as familiar. So possibly due to a mismatch in timing between short-term and long-term memory circuits,
that makes
where
sense,
instead of it going into the short term, it kind of glitches into long term. So it feels like you're pulling it from your memory rather than processing it into memory. So it can create familiarity pathways. So that's why it's like, oh, this feels familiar.
Could it be that there's another sensation there that plays a part, like a smell or a sight or something that, you know how like you smell something that reminds you of grandma's pie, you know, and the next thing you know is you're thinking about your grandma, and it's an apple pie. It's not grandma, but it makes you, you know, remember her. So is it possible that some other olfactory sense or some other one of our senses says, oh, I remember this. And then it makes this new memory into an old memory.
Yeah, and definitely, because we know that smell particularly is the most emotionally heightened of the senses. It's actually the only sense that goes through the emotional centers before the memory centers. So the emotional part, like most of them go through the hippocampus and then to the amygdala. When smell is triggered, it triggers first the amygdala and then the hippocampus. So it's a particularly potent one. But when there's other senses, it's not going into short term. It's not going into short term where it should go. It's feeling like it's coming from long term. That's why you have that smell and everything's kind of heightened. And then it might take things from your long term and then process it with that short term. That's why it can feel like bits of this have happened. And that's why it's a glitch, because it feels like a glitch. Like there's no other way to explain it other than it feels like a glitch in the matrix. And it may be more common in healthy brains than we thought, because it was previously just associated with epilepsy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we used to associate deja vu largely with epilepsy. But it's now recognized as a very common cognitive event, and it's experienced, I think, around 80% of people at some point, especially in younger adults, interestingly, with higher education. And it's possibly because they have more flexible or active memory networks. If they are actively involved in learning complex information, it might be because those memory networks are highly active that glitch is more common.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I've had it happen to me quite a few times where it does get irritating, because you're like, I know there's no way that I've been here or done this or, you know, anything, but it feels like I have.
Yeah, and you're trying to place where it's coming from.
Yes.
It's like you're searching your memory of like, I'm sure this has happened.
Yes.
And you're trying to pull where from, but it hasn't.
Yeah. That's why I find it irritating, because I'm like literally sitting there going, but where? Like when? And then and when it happened in Geneva, I'm like, I've never been to this country. I've never been to this city or country before in my life. So there's no way.
That leads to an important point of what we still don't understand about it. Why it's emotionally intense, because it can be accompanied with powerful emotional charge, because it's almost like it has some kind of meaning, and we don't really know why this false memory circuit would activate emotional circuits, or false memory signal, would activate emotional circuits. Like why the amygdala or why the brain assigns any importance to these random misfires. We should just be like, okay, interesting. But we get emotional about it. And we also don't know why it's triggered by unfamiliar places or scenarios. Like you just said, the smell makes sense. But if you're in a place you've never visited before with people you've never met, the fact that it's active there is very interesting, because it's not like you're pulling from a lot of sources of pre-ingrained memories. That would make sense if it's a very familiar setting, but there's just something new within that, then deja vu would make sense. But the fact that you're in this completely new setting, that's where it's very odd. And one theory suggests that it's similar spatial patterns. So similar things like maybe smell, layout, lighting, that creates a false match. But even that hasn't been supported empirically. So whether it's just a glitch or maybe it's deeper subconscious processing is not fully understood.
Yeah. It's fascinating either way. I mean, you know, I had a friend once that used to think this was, which I used to laugh at all the time, like this was part of your previous life. You know, you had this experience in your previous life, so now you're just remembering it. Yeah. And I'd be like, you're crazy, first of all.
Yeah, I am. I actually had, I was going to do a podcast for this podcast on things like astronomy and previous lives and all that. But I don't want to get cancelled because I have some very strong scientific views on those things. Spoiler alert.
And I'm with you on that. So
they have no supportive evidence.
Yeah. Don't invite us on podcasts to discuss these things.
Don't ask me what my star sign is.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah.
It's the psychology signal.
Well, these were some pretty interesting topics. I think that I know I've wondered about all of these. So I'm sure there's others listening that also have wondered and thought, I wonder if there's any science behind it. So thank you for bringing what we do and don't know today. Do you happen to remember what next month is all about?
I don't.
You never do, but I have it right here.
I don't. It's because I write them, like I'll spend 2 days where all I do is dive into research and write them. So when you ask me, what are we doing? I'm like, I don't even know who I am.
Yeah. Well, it's about ambition.
Oh, I know the one. Okay. We're talking about healthy versus toxic ambition.
Yeah. Which is going to be really interesting because I think it'll be like another therapy session for you and I. So it'll be a nice one. And we'll get to discuss that. So I hope everybody enjoyed this podcast because it was a really interesting topic. And keep your ideas coming in. Like I said before, every time you give us a thumbs up or a like or a heart, it helps us get the message to other people. But then your ideas motivate us to have more interesting and new topics on every episode of the podcast. So thank you for joining us this month. And until next month, stay safe. See ya.